Erev Shabbat Shalom Rabotai. We are continuing with our Mishna Yomi Masechet Orlah. We're up to Perek Bet Mishna Yomi. Today's Mishnayot should be Le'elu Nishmat Neria ben Svetlana Aranbai and Eliyahu ben Burcha Israelov Menuchatam Began Eden. Amen. Today's Mishnah returns to the subject of two sourdoughs that combine to leaven dough. In Mishnahs 8 and 9, we learned about cases in which two sourdoughs, one permitted and one prohibited, leavened dough together. In those cases, the Mishnah said that each of the sourdough could have done the job by itself. The Mishnah now considers a case in which neither of them could have leavened the dough by itself. If sourdough of chulin and sourdough of tiruma fell into a dough of unleavened chulin, first one, then the other, lo bazek edel hametz velo bazek edel hametz, and there was not enough of this one or of that one to leaven the dough on its own, but they combined the dough and leavened it together. The Mishnah says, Rabbi Eliezer says, Achara acharon aniba, I followed the last one, meaning if the tiruma sourdough was the last one to fall in, the dough is considered to have been leavened by the tiruma, and it may be eaten only by kohanim. But if it was the chulin sourdough that fell in last, then the dough is considered to have been leavened by the chulin, and it may be eaten by anyone. Since the leavening process did not take off until the second one fell in, the second one is considered to be the one to have leavened it. But the sages disagree. The sages say, Ben shenafal isu batehila ben basof, whether the prohibited sourdough fell in first or whether it fell in last. Le'olam eno oser ad shebo kedel hametz, it never prohibits the chulin dough unless there is enough of it to leaven the dough by itself. Therefore, in this case, where there was not enough tiruma sourdough to leaven the dough by itself, the dough is permitted regardless of the order in which the two sourdoughs fell in. Now, although the tiruma contributed to the leavening, it is only the partial cause of it, and a partial cause is not enough to prohibit according to the Chachamim. Now, although the leavening does not take place until the second one falls in, it cannot be denied that the first one also contributes to the final result, since there's not enough of the second one to do the job by itself. So according to the Chachamim, there is no reason to consider the second one more important than the first one. Rather, this is a case of two things working together to bring about one result. Now, this is called an halacha zeh v'zeh gorem. Two factors that happen that together can cause something to happen are known as zeh v'zeh gorem. This one and this one cause it. The Chachamim hold that even if one of these is a prohibited substance, the final result is permitted. Zeh v'zeh gorem mutar. Therefore, in our case, where the tiruma sourdough cannot leaven the dough by itself, but only together with the chulin sourdough, the final result, the leavening of the dough is permitted. The final result, the leavening of the dough is permitted because it was brought about by two sourdoughs and only one of them was prohibited. Now, since the dough itself was permitted, the partial influence of the tiruma in leavening it is not strong enough to cause it to become asur. However, the Mifashim do point out, when the prohibited sourdough is able to leaven the dough by itself, it does prohibit the dough, even if there's an equal amount of permitted sourdough working as well. That's what the Mishnah means when it added, unless there is enough of it to leaven the dough by itself, right? Le'olam eno oser ad shebo kedel chametz, right? It never prohibits the chulin dough unless there is enough of it to leaven the dough by itself, in which case it will become asur. Rabbi Eliezer, he disputes this rule. In his opinion, even when two factors cause something to happen, if one of them is prohibited, the final result is prohibited. He holds zeh v'zeh gorem asur. The only reason he permits the dough when the chulin falls in last is that he considers the second influence more important than the first. However, even in this case, he permits it only when the tiruma sourdough was removed before the chulin sourdough fell in. Although the tiruma began the leavening process, since it was removed before any leavening actually took place, its contribution becomes batel, becomes nullified. Therefore, when the chulin falls in and completes the leavening, we follow the last one and permit the result. But if the tiruma is still in the dough when the chulin falls in and finishes the leavening, it's considered to have done so together with the tiruma. Rabbi Eliezer would therefore prohibit the dough because this is a case of zeh v'zeh gorem, which in his opinion is prohibited. And the Rav tells us the halacha kechachamim, the halacha follows the sages. That is Anabotai Mishnah Yud Aleph. Mishnah Yud now cites support for the view of the Chachamim that we just quoted. Yoezer ish habira haya mitalmidei Bet Shammai v'amar. Yoezer, an officer of the temple, the word bira, literally palace, is used to refer to the Bet Mikdash, the temple. Right? Yoezer, an officer of the temple, was one of the students of Bet Shammai, and he said, Sha'alti et Rabban Gamliel HaZaken omed b'shar HaMizrach. I once asked Rabban Gamliel the elder what the law is while he was standing at the east gate of the Temple Mount. And the Mefarshim explained there were several heads of the Sanhedrin who were known as Rabban Gamliel. The first of them was the grandson of Hillel, who became Nasi not long after his famous grandfather died. He was known as Rabban Gamliel the elder. He lived during the time of the second temple. So it says here he asked Rabban Gamliel the elder. V'amar, and he said, Le'olam eni yoser ad she'ebok de chametz, that tiruma, sourdough, never prohibits dough unless there is enough of it to leaven the dough by itself, like the Chachamim said in the previous Mishnah. That is in Rabotai of today's Mishna Yomi. Everybody should have a Erev Shabbat Shalom. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen v'amen.